Hello everyone, this is part 34 of What If Naruto Was the Child of the Moon in Percy Jackson, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
It was the fastest traveling Naruto had done in his whole life. Thanks to Rachel Elizabeth Dare, the party had made it back to Times Square. Despite the quick run through the labyrinth, they still felt like they ran 3,000 kilometers from New Mexico. After the marathon, they emerged from the Marriott basement and burst through the main doors into the streets. It was surreal to be in New York again. After experiencing the hidden gem that Carlsbad, New Mexico held, the concrete jungle all but felt like fantasy. Speaking of fantasy, whoa, they're beautiful. Rachel squealed in delight as a flock of Pegasi descended from the sky, swooping through the skyscrapers with Blackjack in the lead. Yo boss, Naruto's mind translated. You're alive. Of course. I'm lucky that way. Percy puffed out his chest. Hey, we need a ride back to camp. That's my specialty. Blackjack bragged. Oh hey, you have the Cyclops with you. Guido, you up for this question mark? Naruto could swear he could hear the said Pegasus grumble about a bad back. Not a long time later, the group was saddled up and ready to go. Well, everyone except Rachel. Percy didn't know what to say. I guess this is it, Rachel spoke for the boy. Naruto cleared his throat, getting the two teens' attention. This gave Percy the confidence to speak. He smiled. Thanks for guiding us. We couldn't have done it without you. I wouldn't miss it for the world, Rachel returned the smile. Except for maybe almost dying, and, Pan, her voice faltered. Hey Red, Naruto interjected, irking Rachel for a bit. Pan mentioned something about your dad. We've been through a lot already. If it's not too much to ask, what does he mean? Rachel sighed. He was right. These people mean a lot to her already. They've been precious people to her. It wouldn't hurt telling them the truth. Well, Dad's kind of a famous business, she said, twisting the strap of her backpack. What? The whole group mouths hang open at the revelation. Why you mean, you're rich? Percy asked in surprise. Well, yeah, that's how you got the chauffeur to drop everything, Annabeth stated. Yes, Rachel confirmed. I was ashamed to meet Pan, you know. Because, my dad, he's a land developer. He buys up plots of land and transforms them into subdivisions or shopping centers. It made me feel like I contributed to Pan's demise. Hey, Naruto jumped down from his Pegasus and placed a hand on her shoulder. You and your dad are completely different people. You can't blame yourself for something your dad did. But that's not the whole of it, Rachel shook her head. I don't like to talk about my family. I didn't want you to know. I'm sorry I said anything. No, Percy said. It's cool. Look, you were awesome. You bravely led us through the maze even though we warned you that there was a risk of dying along the way. Heck, you even saved our lives with whatever it is you threw when Kronos was about to off us. Bottom line is, I don't care about what your dad does, all I know is you're Rachel Elizabeth Dare, a brave girl and our guide. That's all I'm going to judge you on. Wow, Percy, that means a lot to me. Rachel wiped off some tears that had been forming at the side of her eyes. Well, if you ever want to hang out with a mortal again, you could call me. Sure. Naruto elbowed the boy. I mean, sure, I'd like that. My number's not in the yellow pages, you know. No, I got it. On your hand? I kinda memorized it. Rachel's smile deepened. She was a lot happier now. I guess I'll see you later. Go save the world for me, okay? She started to walk off. Hey, Naruto called out. Catch. Surprisingly, Rachel caught it without hurting herself. It was a tri-pronged kunai in a sheath. What's this? You're open to the world of gods and monsters now. Use it to defend yourself or a way for us to get to you in a jiffy when things get hairy. She studied the kunai and the intricate symbols she couldn't decipher. I'll keep it safe. Naruto nodded and watched her disappear, oblivious with the small glare a certain daughter of Athena was giving her. As she disappeared into the crowds, he climbed onto his own horse. So, Nico, Percy said as he mounted Blackjack. Are you ready to see Bianca again? I don't know, Nico looked down. Will she hate me for disappearing like that? Or for everything I did? Hey, you don't have to worry. She's pretty worried about you. She's waiting for you to come home. Naruto clarified. We have a camp to defend, if it's too much to ask you boys, Annabeth said with irritation, but her voice softened when she turned to Nico. The sooner we leave, the sooner we get to Nico. Nico looked up confidently now. All right, I'm ready. Naruto gave out a determined look and declared, Yosh. Let's go. Camp Half-Blood. The party landed in the middle of the cabin area. The once bustling area of the camp was now empty, almost. The only ones there were Chiron, Silenus, and a pair of Apollo campers. As the group dismounted, Nico, in particular, met eyes with one of the campers. He felt a small shock in his system that he shook off in favor of the matter at hand. The group didn't get a chance to rest. They reported everything that happened on their last excursion into the maze, from Quintus being Daedalus and his betrayal to Kronos rising from Tartarus. They expected the activities director to be surprised with the news, but he was completely stoic, like he already anticipated all this happening. I feared as much, Chiron said. We must hurry. Hopefully, you have slowed down the Titan army, but their vanguard will still be upon us soon. They will be anxious for blood. Most of our defenders are already in place. Wait a moment. Silenus cut in. What of the search for Pan? Grover, you are 3 weeks overdue. Your searcher's license has been revoked. Those licenses don't matter anymore. Lysis was right. The great god Pan is dead. He has paid on and left us his spirit. Grover said confidently, surprising Naruto and Percy. They have never seen the best friend stand up for himself before. It made them proud. What did you say? Silenu's temper rose from the declaration. I will have you exiled for spouting such sacrilege. I vouch for him, Naruto spoke up. We were all there. We witnessed his ping. Lies. You are all liars and nature destroyers. Silenus fumed. We will speak of this later, Chiron said after studying Grover's face. The pot-bellied goat stomped his feet. No. We will speak of this now. We will. Silenus, Chiron called out with a hint of anger in his voice. It was the first time the campers heard the centaur do this. My camp is under attack. Pan's case has waited 2,000 years, I fear it must wait a little longer. Now, if you want to get devoured by monsters, by all means, do what you want. Without waiting for a response from the shocked satyr, he read his bow and galloped towards the battlefield. Bianca, Nico reluctantly approached the armory. He was told his sister was there, gathering some gear for the upcoming skirmish. The said girl perked up at the mention of her name. Nico? She whirled around. There stood her long-lost brother. Tears welled from her eyes. Look, Bianca, He didn't even get to begin his apology. Bianca rushed to him and wrapped him in a warm hug. Nico, she sobbed. I never thought I would see you again. I thought. She couldn't bring herself to say the words. Every time I would see those dreams, I couldn't watch. I'm sorry for worrying you, Bianca, Nico said. He slowly melted into his sister's embrace. The two broke the hug. Bianca looked at her brother sternly. You better be. I mean, look at you. Your skin's so pale. Have you been living underground? And you're so thin. Have been skipping meals. And Nico hugged her once more. Despite how much he hated her sister nagging him all the time, he somehow missed it after all their time apart. I know, he said. Look, I should have trusted my friends more. I shouldn't have listened to some shady ghost. But it's okay now. I'm staying here with you and our friends. Bianca smiled. Hey, I heard you learned a couple of tricks while you were away. How's about a little spar after we survive this attack? Sheesh, you sound like Naruto all of a sudden, Nico joked. Sure, I'll take you up on that. The two siblings bantered with each other the way they always did in the past, but their reunion was short-lived as the ground rumbled. They looked toward the direction of Zeus's fist. Naruto had not seen war in his lifetime, but he figured this was how it would feel like, a preview for the upcoming war. This was the biggest military operation he had ever seen at camp. Everyone was dressed in full battle armor, but this time it wasn't for capture the flag. The labyrinth entrance was dotted with traps, ranging from Hephaestus Miniscaben patented traps to elaborate Elemental Nations style traps. There were a pair of catapults manned by the cabin's counselor. Clarus was on the front lines barking orders to the Ares cabin. Apollo and Hermes' cabins served as the long-ranged fighters. The Athena campers were directing operations from a command tent. Surprisingly, the Aphrodite cabin were eager to join the defense, while the twin sons of Dionysus provided refreshments, but they were ready for battle too. Even the nature spirits were ready to defend their homes. Naruto met up with his sensei at the command tent with Annabeth. Are they ready? Sensei ? They are, Kakashi said. I drilled my teachings into them. I'm surprised you convinced the Aphrodite cabin to do anything at all, Naruto commented, seeing the said campers dressed for battle. Your sisters can be very good motivation for them, Kakashi kept it at that. Do you think we can win ? Naruto asked. My, odd for you to be so down, Kakashi raised his visible eyebrow. You're usually the positive one. You don't understand, sensei. I have seen their army, they outnumber us 3-1, plus the Titan aren't bound by the restrictions the gods have. Their leader almost off me. If he leads this attack. I have been in your position countless times already, Naruto, Kakashi placed a hand on his shoulder. Fighting overwhelming armies or fighting an opponent you cannot hope to defeat. The battle outcome will largely depend on how you fight with your team. That is why the first thing I drilled into you was teamwork. Believe me, Naruto, doubt will be your greatest enemy. And most of all, those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their friends are worse than scum. With that pep talk, the enemies decided to attack. A dozen Laestrygonian giants, or as Tyson knows as Canadians, burst out of the ground with deafening battle cries. They were wielding tree trunks as clubs and flattened cars as shields. One of the giants bellowed and smashed through the Ares phalanx. Gotta go, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto told his sensei. Naruto dashed to the front lines, aiding the Ares campers. The Laestrygonian fell into a heap as the blonde shoved him to the side with pure power alone. Hey, Naruto greeted the daughter of Ares. Need help ? Blonde, Clarus greeted. No time for banter, Naruto said. We gotta get your siblings to safety. When he landed in the medical tent, an Apollo camper noticed his features. When did you ? I don't know, Naruto shook his head. But I'm thinking this is thanks to Pan. Fire, Charles Beckendorf ordered. The catapults swung into action. The giants who were only just starting to recover were smashed on the chest and pelted with a dozen arrows. Around a couple vaporized into golden dust. Just when they were about to be overwhelmed, the Dracaeni surged out of the entrance. This was short-lived though, as the traps managed to thin out the crowd. But that wasn't the end of it. The Titan Lord's army poured out into the battlefield. Hold, Naruto ordered. But Clarus tried to argue, but Naruto shushed her. His hands blurred into hand signs. After landing on the ram seal, he slammed both hands on the ground. Kuchio's no jutsu, he yelled. 2 puffs of smoke were produced from the jutsu. Naruto boy, it has been a while since you called, the voice of an old frog spoke as the smoke dissipated. You really call, what is it ? This time it was an old female voice. Number time, Fukusaku-sensei, Shima-sensei, Naruto said. Look. We got just the right jutsu. Fukusaku jumped up on Naruto's shoulder followed by his wife. The 3 sages clapped their hands together and said in unison, Senpu, Gomen. Wind, fire, and oil spewed from the mouths of the 3, covering the battlefield in burning oil. The screams of monsters could be heard as they boiled to death in the inferno. Fortunately, this wave did not contain any half-bloods. The next wave appeared as soon as the monsters disintegrated. Another round, Naruto-kun ? Shima asked. Naruto shook his head. We can't off the other half-bloods. I guess it's time then. Naruto took a deep breath. Charge. Both sides clashed. The campers were really thankful for the hellish training they had been through. They remembered every bruise, every time they were out of breath, and every ache their body had to endure after every day with that sadist. And they were doing well. Monsters dissolved with every arrow, with every slash of their celestial bronze. The hostile demigods, though, couldn't bring themselves to harm them. Despite how good they were doing, they were still outnumbered. Naruto's estimation was way off. More poured from the entrance. Despite the fatigue, the campers rallied. This was going to be a long day. The nature spirits joined in the fight with their wooden kugels and shields made of tree bark. The satyrs dance around the attacks of hellhounds while dryads shot out arrows and nature magic. They were doing pretty well. That was when one telekine shot a flaming arrow into the woods. They scattered for fear of burning down the forests. Dracei broke out from the formation and headed straight for the panicking nature spirits. Percy and Naruto look on with fear as they saw the snake women charge straight for them. Just then, Nico suddenly erupted from the shadows and stabbed one of the snake women in the neck. Bianca subsequently came out of the woods. She wore a leather jacket with an omega at the back. She ran into one of the snake women and defeated her after a short skirmish. That was cool, Nico. Where'd you learn how to do that? Nico looked sheepish from the praise of his own sister. It's some trick I picked up. I can teach you if you want. The snake women hissed at them. Hold that thought, Bianca read her weapon. Nico turned to monsters and brandished a 3-foot-long sword as black as night. The monsters and nature spirits alike shuffled nervously. He stabbed the sword into the ground. A fissure opened up right in front of the Dracaeni. Different corpses climbed out from the break in the ground. U.S. revolutionaries, Roman centurions, Napoleonic cavalry on skeletal horses. The corpses drew their swords and engaged. Nico, himself, crumpled to the ground. Bianca rushed worriedly towards her brother's side. Are you okay? I'm okay, Nico wheezed, as he tried to catch his breath. That move always drains me. I just need to catch my breath. More clashes came from the main battle regimen. Bianca looked to the others. Rest up. The battle's not close to done. Percy Jackson was heated in this battle. His home was targeted by the forces of the Titan Lord. He had to make sure that none of the family he had in this camp would be taken from him. He broke through the enemy defenses. He was like a storm. None of the monsters could match him, even the giants. He weaved through the stomps given to him by the monsters more than twice his size and slashed at the legs, causing the giants. The monster fell to the ground and finally dissolved into dust. After dispatching his opponent, he saw a hellhound break through the skeletal warrior's guard and bounded straight for the satyrs. One satyr danced around the attack, but the attack was relentless. The next satyr was slower and managed to fall on his butt. Fortunately, he raised his tree bark shield to defend himself, which broke under the hellhound's maw. It was about to go on for a second attack, but... Hey! Our hero yelled, getting its attention. The hellhound turned to him. Percy gulped. Well, I got his attention, he muttered to himself. Now what? Seeing the new target, the dog charged straight at him. It jumped straight to snap at Percy's face. The son of Poseidon was agile though. He bent backwards as far as he could to avoid getting his head bitten off. Before he could even get out a sigh of relief, the hound changed course and bounded for him again. He was smarter this time. His fingers grasped the vial of Greek fire and tossed it inside the hellhound's maw. The dog stopped in its tracks and coughed. The vial of liquid was stuck in its throat. It gagged further, trying to clear its airway. Then, it swallowed. Its throat was now clear. The hound snarled at Percy. The boy read his sword. But the dog burst into flames. Percy let out the sigh of relief he was holding. He moved to check the downed satyr. Before he could do so, Grover called out to him. Percy. He turned to the direction of his best friend. Flames danced in the sunlight as they lit the forest on fire. Some of the fire arrows had gotten through the defenses and started a forest fire. Oh no! With that final thought, Percy rushed to the scene. Kakashi dashed through the battlefield where his students fought. He hadn't seen so many monsters in one place in his whole life. Or he hasn't seen any monsters at all in his life. So he felt quite overwhelmed. He smiled underneath his mask. He was proud. All around him, his students were doing pretty well. They could handle themselves pretty well in a fight. The worst that happened was an injury or two from a stray arrow or a wild slash, but they will live. He was interrupted from his thoughts as a giant's fist pounded on the ground he was standing. Mr. Kakashi. Annabeth yelled as she watched their camp counselor get crushed into the ground. Then, the sound of crackling lightning came out of nowhere and sliced the Laestrygonian's arm clean off. This gave her a sigh of relief. Whoa, that's a jutsu from Naruto's teammate. Annabeth pointed out. Actually, it is my original jutsu, Kakashi said as he walked up to the girl. I taught it to him. It's a long story actually. I'll ask you more later, Annabeth said. With a nod, Kakashi moved on. Despite how well they were doing, that did not change the fact that the campers were severely outnumbered. They really meant to wipe the camp off the map. The next wave of enemies then emerged from the labyrinth entrance. They had sound nin now, a lot of sound nin. They didn't look like the humans who attacked the Leaf Village, no. It looked like the Snake Man modified them. They were so modified that they didn't look quite human anymore. In the earlier group, he only knocked out the hostile half-bloods as per orders from Chiron. This time he didn't hesitate. His lightning crackled in his fist as he plowed through the grotesque-looking shinobi with his lightning. After dispatching a group of the monster-human hybrids, Kakashi dodged to the left as a snake rushed past the trees. Right then and there he knew who he was going to face. Orochimaru, I was wondering when you would show up, Kakashi spoke. The snakes retracted. From the trees came an old enemy, just not who he was thinking. It was Kabuto but different. His skin was white and scaly around his left arm. To be fair, when you think of snakes, you think of Orochimaru. I'm flattered you would think that, Kabuto slowly revealed himself. But not quite at all. So you've finally decided to become your master, Kakashi answered. That wasn't the plan. The bookworm snapped at the Jonin. That traitor offed him. Traitor ? Kakashi asked calmly. Kabuto sent another wave of snakes at the masked Jonin. With a lightning-infused kunai, Kakashi plowed through them. Fine. Kabuto produced a sword. It was Orochimaru's signature weapon. If you won't go down easily. Kakashi produced a blade of his own, a memento from the past. With that, the two charged. Two toads screeched at the enemy, stopping a giant in its tracks. Naruto appeared at head level, the monster not even noticing him. He sent a senjutsu-enhanced punch straight at the giant's face. The monster fell flat on his back, crushing the unfortunate Dracaini that weren't able to get out of the way. The luckier monsters hissed. They read their blades and charged. The blonde was amazed with the speed at which he gathered nature chakra. Whatever it was Pan had done to him, it worked wonders. And it had an extra effect as well. The nature spirits bravely rallied around him. His aura gave them courage. Lord Naruto, one sat bowed in front of him. Thank you. Lord ? Naruto raised an eyebrow. But I'm not. He didn't get to finish his sentence. Another one of the Hephaestus cabin traps exploded. Their battle was far from order. Your orders, Lord ? The satyr asked. Rally to me. Naruto didn't bother to correct the satyr with the title he was given. They charged. Naruto paired one of the Dionysus kids. He caught one giant's arm that was about to flatten him. Pollux, you okay ? Naruto asked. The demigod son of Dionysus opened his eyes to see Naruto barely struggling against the weight of the fist. I thought I was done for. Can't let anyone hear. Naruto gave him a million-watt smile the way Guy Sensei would. Right, I'll buy you a drink later once this is all over. Pollux saluted back and got back to the carnage. Naruto threw an explosive tag at the giant in front of him. The monster exploded into guts and blood, spraying nature spirits and monsters alike. Just then, the ground shook, followed by a loud screech. That didn't sound good. Even the monsters froze in the spot with the horrible sound they heard. Soon after, Camp shot out of Zeus's fist and hovered into the sky. It scanned the battlefield as if looking for something or someone. She screeched again, sensing the chakra that destroyed her days ago. Even around the monsters and satyrs, Naruto knew that he met eyes with her. He sighed. He'd been unlucky with the monster he has slain lately. They'd been fast reformers or something was letting him out too early. In any case, it was round 2. He cracked his neck and his muscles. He raised his hands and entered the taijutsu stance of the two green beasts of Konoha. With full energy, he yelled, "You want me ? Come and get me." Percy's eyes widened as the fire crackled, threatening to consume the trees including the wood nymphs' homes. As a son of the sea god, Percy saw it his duty to put out the fire. He dashed through duels, stabbing Dracaini and hellhounds that dared get in his way. He had to act fast. His problem, the nearest source of water, the creek, the boundary line of the various capture the flag games, was nearly a kilometer away. Sighing, he concentrated. He felt the familiar tug in his gut that came with a roar in his ears. Soon, a wall of water came dousing the flames. Juniper and Grover spat out water, completely drenched in water. They looked at Percy with a grateful look. Thanks, Percy. Then, They turned the gaze to the battlefield. They looked really, really angry. Grover brandished his cudgel and Juniper raised his stick looking like she wanted to tan someone's backside. They charged. Kakashi faced off against Kabuto, Kusanagi against Tanto. Kakashi's left eye blazed as it stood as it aided him in this fight. Sparks flew as the two blades met in the middle of the battlefield. Kakashi had to be careful in this fight. Orochimaru's blade would leave his own blade in pieces. He somersaulted backwards as snakes converged upon him. He landed on one knee quite a distance from Kabuto, but the snakes enlarged and kept coming. Kakashi's hands flew into hand signs. He placed his hand on the ground and a wall of earth erupted from the ground. The giant snake head slammed onto the wall leaving cracks, but it still held strong. Very good, Kabuto praised. You have not lost your touch, Anbu Captain. Kabuto was almost caught off guard as a pair of hands grabbed his legs, almost. The bookworm leapt into the air and stabbed the Kusanagi into the ground. He looked around. He knew that his opponent would not go down that easily. Without warning, Kakashi threw the leaf whirlwind at Kabuto. The after tried to raise his arm to guard, but the force was enough to push him back. The sudden attack caught him by surprise that he wasn't able to reinforce his arm to resist the heavy blow. The four-eyed Kasagakure shinobi sent his chakra into his hand. He felt his hand mending. Unfortunately for him, Kakashi didn't let up with the attack. The Jonin engaged him in hand-to-hand combat. Kabuto desperately tried to defend. Then, Kabuto smirked. A snake lashed out at Kakashi as their hands were locked at an impa, pushing each other for dominance. Then, Kabuto's eyes widened as Kakashi seemingly disappeared into thin air in front of him, only to receive a boot on his jaw sending him flying into the air, a click guy and Lee move. Kabuto was in a daze from the concussion he just received. The snakes were restless, waiting for their master to come back to his senses. With the dancing leaf shadow, the son of the White Fang appeared behind him. Kakashi wrapped the bookworm in bandages that appeared out of nowhere. They spun rapidly as they fell to the ground. Their crash flattened a few monsters who decided it was a good idea to butt into a high-level shinobi fight. Kakashi cracked his neck. Opening the first gate left his muscles sore. Kabuto lay there unmoving, but Kakashi had his guard up. Now that Kabuto had almost taken his master's image, he would be as persistent as the snake. Just as he expected, the ground cracked beneath him. His body was surrounded with lightning chakra, giving him a protective sphere. The snakes that tried to snap at him were shredded to pieces. Kakashi reached out, managing a small slice on Kabuto's hand as he tried to defend. Kabuto leapt back to safety. Oh no you don't, Kakashi said as he unfurled a scroll and lined it with his own blood. Summoning Jutsu. A trail of cracked ground made its way to Kabuto, like a shark stalking its prey except it was on land. The target stood the trail made by whatever it is Kakashi summoned. It stopped in its tracks, making Kabuto wary. He didn't expect 5 different dogs to burst out the ground and sink their teeth into his flesh. Kakashi heaved out a sigh. He was almost out of chakra. The Sharingan has taken a lot out of him. He weaved through a few more hand signs. He held out his hand and gathered chakra in his palm. You're done, Kakashi spat. He dashed forward, stabbing jutsu into his opponent's chest. There was no blood. Kabuto's body actually felt like scales. Damn it, he actually escaped. He moved to pursue the rogue shinobi, but he wasn't able. He fell flat on his back, unable to move. Kakashi. Paken's gruff voice made sure that his summoner was still okay. He breathed a sigh of relief when he noticed that the Jonin was still breathing. You've overexerted yourself with the Sharingan again. Mr. Kakashi. Selena ran over to their teacher when she saw him collapsed on the ground. He'll be fine. Paken tried to say, not knowing about the language barrier. Selena turned to the dog who was speaking in an unknown language. Her eyes were almost like heart shapes as she saw the Ninken. You're so cutie. She fussed over the summoning animal, picking him up and hugging him tight. The other dogs snickered at Paken's predicament. Oh, don't just stand there. He scolded. Get this human to put me down. They puffed back to their home to avoid the daughter of Aphrodite's attention. Traitors, Paken grumbled to himself. She was giving the Ninken some love for about 5 minutes when he heard Kakashi cough. Mr. Kakashi. Selena's attention moved to his new camp counselor. You should put down Paken, Kakashi said weakly. He doesn't like being fussed over like that. Or, All right, she reluctantly relented. She went back to the matter at hand. Are you all right, Mr. Kakashi? I'm just out of chakra, the Jonin said as he rested his head back. Can you help me back to the big house? Just as Selena was about to help their camp counselor up, the ground shook. A horrible, deafening shriek was heard throughout the battlefield. Camp shot out of Zeus's fist and hovered over the battlefield. Great, enemy reinforcements. Naruto stood his ground as the ancient Cyclops torturer shrieked at him challengingly. Luna landed beside him after taking out her fair share of monsters. She barked in response to the hovering monsters' challenge. Camp shrieked again and dive-bombed the battlefield through foe and friendlies alike. She didn't care. She had a one-track mind. All she wanted was revenge on the blonde that dared to send her to Tartarus. The blonde ran towards Camp. The two met each other head-on. A small shockwave was formed, pushing everyone in the vicinity back just from the force. Naruto was surprised. The ancient jailer was somehow stronger this time. The two engaged again. They took turns getting thrown back. Luna was able to get a few hits in, but she was also sent flying by the superior fighting abilities that the jailer had gathered throughout the millennia. It was about even. Camp couldn't pierce the blonde's skin. Naruto couldn't get a hit in with the monster's newfound agility. Naruto rose to his feet again. The campers around him were on their last legs. Sure, they had more softs now, but they were still humans after all. Fatigue was beginning to set in, and the Titan army was beginning to push them back. The blonde gritted his teeth. He was angry. He was about to lose his home and the friends he had made in it, friends that accepted him for who he is. He was pissed off now. Naruto dropped on all fours. Red bubbling energy began to form around the blonde. Everyone, get away. Kakashi's voice warned the campers. They didn't need to be told twice. That wasn't the end of this though. More power poured from Naruto, his skin started to peel off. The shroud was not looking more fox-like now with blood-red skin. Mindscape. Back so soon? Kurama chided the blonde who was nearly overtaken by the fox's hatred. Naruto stood there unmoving. His sclera started turning black, the same as the dark Naruto he had conquered before. Not receiving a response, he continued. Here you thought, you've conquered your darkness. Your darkness is but a puddle in the pool of hatred I possess. Now, tear off the seal, show them what real power feels like. The humanoid fox roared at the camp. By the gods, Chiron muttered. Camp watched the fox-like being in the place of the blonde she was previously fighting. For some reason, she felt fear. It felt like a small piece of a very old power. The fox blurred. It raked its claws into Camp's face. The monster scrambled to escape. But the fox was relentless. It created a giant arm and slammed him back. The camp landed on the medical tent and flattened it. Athena campers scrambled to get out of the way. Naruto. The campers called out to their friend. They were scared of the unknown power that made their friend lose control, but at the same time they were concerned. Will Naruto get out of this alive or will they lose him? The attacks didn't let up. Camp was mangled and battered to a pulp. She was here for revenge, but now she wanted nothing more than to return to Tartarus. Golden ichor poured out of her wounds and hematoma dotted her body. The fox stood on top of her, an orb forming on its mouth. Kakashi's eyes widened. He had witnessed the Nine Tails attack in his childhood. He knew the destructive capacity of that attack, and how his sensei based his signature jutsu off of it. Stop him. Kakashi managed to yell as he was supported by the Aphrodite cabin counselor. Just then, an arrow whizzed past the fox's head, distracting it from creating the jutsu. The campers turned to see Talia Grace notching an arrow and taking aim. This is Naruto, I presume? The lieutenant of the hunt asked without her eyes leaving her target. Kakashi nodded. The fox has taken control of him. He's in there, but we need to force the fox back into its cage. How exactly will I do that? Talia looked to the camp counselor. Kakashi struggled to reach into his ninja pouch. He provided a piece of paper which made the hunter's eyebrow rise. Did you just give me a piece of paper? She clarified. It's a seal, Kakashi explained. Just put it on Naruto's head and it will do its work. Okay, I will trust you, Talia said. She turned back to Naruto, who just punched a hole through Camp's chest. Zoe, take half of the campers and go and ist the camp to clear out the monsters. The rest of you, with me. Yes, Lieutenant, Zoe led the way. To me. The hunters charged, bolstering the camp's ranks. Talia let her arrow fly. The fox roared and an invisible force stopped the arrow in its tracks. More arrows flew to distract the beast. Talia rushed towards Naruto. The fox slammed its hands on the ground. Five hands threatened to crush the hunters. They were nimble and quick, though dodging the arms. Arrows rained on the fox. It roared to deflect the arrows again, but a bolt of lightning fell upon him, causing damage. The hunters moved in again before the fox could recover. They didn't expect the fox to recover all too quickly. Talia brandished her spear. It crackled with lightning. She fired another bolt, but the fox was able to avoid the attack. But that wasn't the point of the attack. The distraction worked perfectly. 5 hunters made the jump on him. Normally, the usual prey would be subdued by now, but this one was different. It swiped its hand and a chakra arm knocked him aside. Annabeth saw the hunters struggling to get her friend back to normal. She gave Naruto a look of concern. She rushed forward. Talia widened her eyes when she saw Annabeth running towards the danger. No. The hunters moved to stop her, but she was fast. Her side training with the older blonde had made her faster than your average demigod. Before anyone knew it, she was in front of Naruto. The fox was surprised. Annabeth wrapped him in a hug. Her skin sizzled from the burns of the corrosive chakra. She ignored the pain and just held on. Come back, Naruto, she said. It's over. Camp's dead. You won. The fox was confused for a moment. At first, it didn't know what to do with the contact. It then started to growl. Its hand raised to peel the daughter of Athena off of itself, but its momentary distraction was enough for Talia to close the distance and place the seal on Naruto's head. The fox roared. The crimson skin started to retract, revealing second-degree burns all over Naruto's skin. Naruto! She cried out as she held him in her arms. She ignored the pain from her own burns and focused on her fellow blonde who was now unconscious. Talia walked up next to her. She placed a hand on her fellow demigod's shoulder and said, "Come on. Both of you need medical attention." "Oh, okay," was all she answered. Mount Olympus. Zeus was pissed. That damn brat of Artemis had allowed himself to lose control. He had warned him of this. He was about to hurl a lightning bolt at the boy who dared to defy him when a voice spoke out. "And just what do you think you're doing?" A childlike voice spoke. "Hestia." Zeus raised an eyebrow. "You dare defend this demigod? Has it occurred to you that this boy has unleashed the beast to defend the camp? Hestia argued. Still, the fox is a danger to this world. Zeus was still not convinced. The ancient laws prevent the gods from interfering in mortal affairs. Now our precious camp is under attack. The demigods are on their own. Now with the camp under attack, don't you think it is only right for them to do everything in their power to defend their home? No. The boy is impulsive. There are other powers in his arsenal. Coming from you? One have watched you grow, little brother. You have always been impulsive. How dare you? I am the king of the gods. Look, little brother, she emphasized the last part. The way I see it, he did it to defend the camp. This is the first move in the upcoming war against the Titans. They move to crush the demigods, the only way for us to exert our will into the world. You have always relied on demigods. Do you want them to permanently disappear from the world? Zeus was speechless. Her older sister has never scolded him like this before. Or do you want to be powerless as father rises again? Fine. Zeus unexpectedly had seen some sense. Or it could have been fear of the Titanomachy. Good. I am glad we are on the same page. Hestia nodded. Camp Half-Blood. A cheer came from the monster army. Camp has been defeated, and the weird fox has been subdued. The campers, satyrs, and nature spirits were tired. Only the hunters were fresh and ready for battle. The shinobi were down, and they still had the numbers advantage. It was a golden opportunity. They charged. Through the fatigue, the camp rose in defense, fearing the worst. A giant managed to surprise Chiron with a glancing blow to the hind legs. 5 more cried in glee and moved to take advantage. Unexpectedly, the Titan army stopped in their tracks. Somewhere on the rear, monsters were getting thrown around. A volley of boulders rained down upon them. Arrows rained in response. A black wall of darkness rammed into one of the giants and a perfectly aimed boulder managed to take out another one. The army scattered. At the mouth of Zeus's fist, Daedalus strode forward, slashing down the braver of the enemies. Right beside him was a familiar-looking giant with 100 hands rippling, each holding a huge chunk of rocks. Yeeeees! Tyson yelled, seeing his idol. You came. He gained the confidence to fight even harder. Grover rushed forward with a battlecry. But it wasn't just an ordinary battlecry. It was the most horrible sound anyone has ever heard. It sounded like fear itself. As one, the forces of Kronos dropped their weapons and ran for their lives. The giants trampled the Dracaeni, trying to get into the labyrinth first. Telechenes and hellhounds and enemy half-bloods scrambled after them. The tunnel rumbled shut, and the battle was over. The clearing was quiet. Percy ran over to Grover. That was great, he praised. The satyr blushed. I don't know where that came from. I do. Juniper hugged him fiercely. She was covered with cuts and she was bleeding green sap in some places, but that didn't bother her. She was more amazed with her boyfriend's latest move. But this was not the time to celebrate. They had to tend to the wounded. The first one they checked on was Nico. There was smoke curling off his black clothes. His fingers were clenched, and the GR all around his body had turned yellow and Bianca stood over him, tired. She had defended her brother from the monsters that tried to take advantage. She looked like she had been through a train wreck. He's been like this since he summoned the undead, Bianca explained. Percy knelt to him and gave him some nectar that he took from one of the Apollo campers. He trickled some of the fluid into Nico's mouth. He coughed and spluttered, but his eyes fluttered open. He slowly sat up. Nico. Bianca quickly enveloped her in a hug. Bianca, Nico weakly said. Are you okay? She checked on her younger brother. I'll be okay, Nico said. I never tried to summon so many undead before. What a relief, Bianca sobbed. Daedalus and Briars walked up to the group of demigods. Daedalus looked a little worse for wear. His automaton bled golden oil. Apparently his automaton body healed itself. O'Leary loomed behind him, licking the wounds on her master's head so Daedalus's hair stood up funny. The 100-handed one stood beside him. A group of demigods and satyrs stood around them. All were asking Briars to sign armors, t-shirts, and shields. That made the kind monster bashful. Daedalus, Nico managed. Yes, my boy, the inventor said solemnly. I admit that I made a mistake. Your shinobi friend's words hit straight through me. I came to make amends. Briars. Tyson came to hug the 100-handed one. I knew you would come. This is all because of you, young Cyclops, Briars patted Tyson on the back. You reminded me of who I was. Your group works wonders, Daedalus said. Say, where is the shinobi? Oh yeah? Percy's voice trailed off. He's injured. Bianca's eyes widened. The group rushed over to Naruto's side. They found the blonde being cradled by Annabeth, trying to feed him some nectar and ambrosia. He was covered in burns all over his body, and the magical food of the gods was slowly working their magic. He was surrounded by some of his cousins, Kakashi, who was supported by Selena, and the Hunters of Artemis, most notably, the current lieutenant, Talia Grace, and her right-hand woman, Zoe Nightshade. Annabeth was sobbing with worry, and Talia was comforting her. Bianca quickly joined them and checked on the boy he had seen as her older brother. What happened? Daedalus asked. He transformed into the demon fox, Kakashi explained. The corrosive chakra burned his body. I see, the inventor said. Will he be okay? Kakashi nodded. He has always bounced back pretty quickly. As if on cue, Naruto's eyes fluttered open. He tried to stand up, but his whole body burned. It was like his skin was peeled off. It was tender to touch. His eyes fell on the girl cradling him. He noticed the burns on her arm and the singed clothes. Did I do this? Was all he could ask. She didn't answer. Instead, Annabeth and Bianca hounded him, causing him to howl in pain. Why do you always insist on making me worry? Annabeth sobbed into his chest. Hey guys, Naruto greeted. He caressed Annabeth's head. Sorry to make you worry. You better be. Annabeth scolded. Naruto's eyes caught Daedalus and Briars. Naruto winced as he tried to get back on his feet despite the protests of the camp medics. So, you came. It was all thanks to you, the inventor said. Your words hold weight. I decided to make amends. First, he slung a leather satchel off his back, unshinkered it, and produced a sleek silver laptop computer, one of the ones I'd seen in the workshop. On the lid was the blue symbol. My work is here, he said. It's all I managed to save from the fire. Notes on projects I never started. Some of my favorite designs. I couldn't develop these over the last few millennia. I did not dare reveal my work to the mortal world. But perhaps you will find it interesting. He handed the computer to Annabeth, who stared at it like it was solid gold. You're giving me this ? But this is priceless. This is worth, I don't even know how much. A small price to pay for the way I acted. You were right, children of Athena should be wise. Become a great architect, even greater than I ever was. He then turned to Percy. Mrs. O'Leary will need a new master when I peon. Could I trouble you with looking after her ? Wait, peon ? Are you planning to off yourself ? Percy protested. That's wrong. Daedalus shook his head. Not as wrong as hiding from my crimes for 2,000 years. Genius does not excuse evil, Percy. My time has come. You won't get a fair trial, Annabeth said. The spirit of Minos sits in judgment. I will take what comes, he said. And trust in the justice of the underworld, such as it is. That is all we can do, isn't it ? Finally, he turned to Naruto. I owe my change of heart to you, Naruto. Your words cut straight to the soul. You made me see sense. For that, I am forever grateful. He produced a blade. It looked like a normal kunai, but it had a 3-diamond design on the blade. There was also a telephone connected at the end. The labyrinth crossing dimensions surprised me at first. I explored your world in my own time. And in my travels I have come across some artifacts in my time. This is one of them. I don't know what to say, Naruto said. Thank you. Your gratitude is more than enough for me. Now then, he turned to Nico. I am ready, son of Hades. I am ready to see my son and my nephew. Release my soul. With some difficulty, Nico drew his Stygian iron sword and chanted. Your time is long since come. Be released and rest. A smile of relief spread across Daedalus's face. He froze like a statue. His skin turned transparent, revealing the bronze gears and machinery whirring inside his body. Then, he turned to grey ash and disintegrated. Mrs. O'Leary howled. Percy patted her. Earth rumbled, an earthquake that could probably be felt in every major city across the country, as the ancient labyrinth collapsed. Chiron looked solemnly at the scene. There were no casualties, but he knew that this wasn't the last they would see of the Titan army. He looked at the weary faces of his campers and said, Come children, we have a lot to do. The battle was over, but the campers weren't out of the woods just yet. This Kakashi fellow, he completely changed how the training for half-bloods went. It completely strayed for how Chiron had trained heroes. He had foregone, no not completely foregone, more like set aside the individual training of the demigods and focused more on teamwork. Chiron was completely stumped, but he did not question the man's teachings. And boy was he glad he did not question the Jonin's decisions. Thanks to the training they received, casualties were non-existent. Still they had to treat almost the whole camp. Injuries ranged from small scratches to broken bones and concussions. Once the most serious injuries were out of the way, the camp could relax, except for a particular group in the camp, the nature spirits. Satyrs, dryads, and naiads filled the sacred grove. It was an emergency meeting for the case of one Grover Underwood. He should be exiled. Silenus roared insistently. Such blasphemy will not be tolerated by the council. Silenus, we should not make rash decisions like this, Chiron persuaded. As we can see, we have several witnesses. We should look over the evidence before we make our final verdict. As much as possible, this satyr on the council did not want to listen to any more foolish claims. What witnesses ? I'm sure these witnesses only bring forward fabricated claims and preposterous lies. I insist, Silenus, Chiron pressed. We will not make judgment without due process. Fine. The satyr rolled his eyes. Bring forth the witnesses. Me. Juniper stepped forward. Grover's final attack. It was panic, I am sure of it. Grover summoned Lord Pan's power and unleashed it upon the Titan army. Sacrilege. Silenus yelled. The wild god has more likely favored us with a blessing. Or perhaps Grover's music was so awful it scared the enemies away. That wasn't it, sir, Grover said. He sounded calmer now, despite all the mocking and insults he had received. Pan has paid his spirit into all of us when he paid. Each of us must work to renew the wild and protect what is left of it. After 2,000 years, you expect us to believe such claims of yours? Never. We must continue the search. Exile the traitor. You overgrown goat, Naruto said with as much venom in his voice as he could muster. Everyone turned to Naruto, and they gasped. It turns out, he unconsciously drew in called from the nature chakra around him, and it was the first time anyone had paid attention to the results. The familiar light pupil remained. The orange pigmentation around his eyes was still there. A forest green tattoo snaked its way around Naruto's face on both sides and converged on a diamond-shaped tattoo on his forehead. It then branched out again and ended in a pair of horns on the top of his head, like on the horns on Grover's head. Almost all the nature spirits knelt down as they sensed the energy that radiated from the blonde shinobi. Those that had seen Pan face to face recognized it too. It was almost like Pan's power. Our group stand witness to the ping of Pan. Annabeth, Grover, Percy, and Nico raised their hands. Pan has announced 2,000 years ago that he has long paid, but your unwavering faith has kept him clinging to life. It was only when we found him in the depths of the caves in New Mexico was he able to pee on. We can confirm. L lies. Silenus yelled again, this time not as loud as he did before. Filthy human, destroyer of nature. Who would believe a word you say? I would, said a familiar voice. I must say, Naruto Uzumaki, it is unmistakable. The power you radiate, I can never forget it. I sensed it all the way back in the first Titan War. Everyone was stunned. No one expected Dionysus of all people to recognize and acknowledge Naruto's sage mode. Lord Dionysus, Silenus stood to bow. The other nature spirits bowing at Naruto turned to the wine god. Dionysus ignored them. He walked up to Naruto and shook his hand. Thank you for saving my son, Naruto Uzumaki. I am in your debt. If there is anything you need, just tell me. That surprised the camp. Dionysus has never been nice to anyone at camp, except for Chiron, much less express gratitude to a human of all creatures. This truly was a shocking day. He ignored the shocked expressions the crowd was giving him and waved hand. A new chair grew next to Silenus, a throne made of grapevines. Miss me? He looked around the embled crowd. Oh yes, very much sire. Silenus said, kissing. Well, I did not miss this place. Dionysus snapped. I bear bad news, my friends. Evil news. The minor gods are changing sides. Morpheus has gone over to the enemy. Hecate, Janus, and Nemesis, as well. Zeus knows how many more. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Strike that, Dionysus said. Even Zeus doesn't know. Now, I want to hear Grover's story. Again, from the top. But, my lord, Silenus protested. It's just nonsense. Dionysus's eyes flared with purple fire. You dare question me? Silenus gulped, and waved at Grover to start again. When Grover was done, Mr. D nodded. It sounds like just the sort of thing Pan would do. Grover is right. The search is tiresome. You must start thinking for yourselves. He turned to a satyr. Bring me some peeled grapes, right away. Yes, sire. The satyr scampered off. How ironic. We must exile the traitor. Silenus insisted. I say no, Dionysus countered. That is my vote. I vote no as well, Chiron put in. Silenus set his jaw stubbornly. All in favor of exile? He and the two other old satyrs raised their hands. 3-2, Silenus said. Ah, yes, Dionysus said. But unfortunately for you, a god's vote counts twice. And as I voted against, we are tied. Silenus stood, indignant. This is an outrage. The council cannot stand at an imper. Then let it be dissolved. Mr. D said. I don't care. Silenus bowed stiffly, along with his two friends, and they left the grove. About 20 satyrs went with them. The rest stood around murmuring uncomfortably. Don't worry, Grover told them. We don't need the council to tell us what to do. We can figure it out ourselves. He told them again the words of Pan, how they must save the wild a little at a time. He started dividing the satyrs into groups, which ones would go to the national parks, which ones would search out the last wild places, which ones would defend the parks in the big cities. Well, Annabeth said to me, Grover seems to be growing up. Naruto nodded and smiled. He has come a long way from the old bullied boy back in Yansei Academy. In the afternoon, Chiron dismissed the campers to do their own thing for today. After a spectacular job well done, they deserved it, they all did. Percy found Tyson hanging out with Briars at the beach. So you go left by the reef and go straight down when you see the sunken ship. Then you go a mile, 1.6 kilometers, east, past the mermaid graveyard. You will start to see fires burning. Giving him directions to the forges ? Percy asked, joining the pair. Tyson nodded. Briars wants to help. He will teach Cyclops the old ways, how to make better weapons and armors. I want to see Cyclops, Briars agreed. I do not want to be alone anymore. You will not be lonely down there, Percy said wistfully. He had not seen Poseidon's palace, but he was sure it would be bustling like Olympus. With the war coming, you will be very busy. Briars's face morphed into a happy expression. Busy sounds good. I only wish Tyson could join me. Tyson blushed. He was getting acknowledged by his hero. He actually wanted to be with him. I will stay with my brother in the meantime. I will join you soon. You will do fine, Briars. Thank you. The 100-handed one shook Percy's hand with just about all of his hands. We will meet again, Percy. I know it. Then he gave Tyson a great big octopus hug and waded out into the ocean. The brothers watched until his enormous head disappeared under the waves. Percy clapped Tyson on the back. You helped him a lot. I only talked to him. And that did wonders. Your belief in him saved him. I never thought it would work that way. That's the magic of faith. Tyson's stomach grumbled. They both shared a laugh. Percy stood up. Come on, big guy. Let's go have a bite to eat. The hunters gathered around Naruto in the medical tent. The blonde insisted that he was okay, that he was strong enough to walk around the camp on his own, but his sisters insisted. Thou are one reckless shinobi, Zoe lectured the blonde. Using a transformation thou have not truly mastered. But I didn't want to do that, Naruto tried to reason. I was just so angry and my mind went blank. Then thy problem lies in thy emotion control, Zoe said. It cannot be helped. I shall accompany thee in this camp. It seems that thou will need guidance from an older figure in thy life. Do not worry, thy sister will accompany you. Zoe, are you sure? One of the older campers asked. To be close to these campers, she shivered in disgust. I will have to endure, Zoe nodded. It is clear that Naruto needs a companion, someone to teach him restraint. But, Naruto tried to protest. I have pretty good control. You just can't say it, can you, Zoe? Talia interjected. She sighed. Don't listen to her, Naruto. Those are not what she is really after. What do you mean? Naruto gave her a puzzled expression. She has been worried about you since she learned of the attack on Camp Half-Blood, Talia explained, much to the said hunter's ire. She was the first to speak out and ask for the quest to be sent to camp and defend it against the Titan army. We got it on a technicality, a younger hunter spoke up. True, Talia agreed. Nevertheless, she insisted on coming here. Fine, Zoe relented. She speaks the truth. Naruto looked at his oldest sister. My, Zoe, I never thought I would see this side of you. Let us make things clear, Zoe's strict voice returned. I did this for you and nothing else. Naruto smiled. What is funny? Zoe asked, seeing Naruto's expression. Oh, it's nothing, Naruto answered. It's just that it makes me happy that my own sisters would come to my aid like this. Of course we would, the hunters chorused. Silly Naruto, Talia teased. We're your sisters. We know you would do the same for us. Yes I would, Naruto grinned. Talia then turned to the whole group. On that happy note, let's go have dinner. Nico and Bianca stood at the clearing behind the big house. Bianca seemed to be in deep concentration while Nico was watching her. Focus, Nico instructed. The dead will listen to you. Call upon them. Bianca tried harder. She dug deep into the power of Hades that lay dormant inside of her. She focused on the energy that she somehow called upon when she defeated the skeleton warrior back in New Mexico. At first, nothing happened. Then, a small crack appeared on the ground. A small paw broke through from the ground, and the skeletal remains of small kitten walked out and snuggled on Bianca's feet. She opened her eyes and looked at the kitten. She was dejected. All that concentration, and all I could summon was a cat. The kitten looked up to the girl. Somehow she could tell that the feline was hurt by her words. No, no, it's not like that. Bianca tried to clear things up. I didn't mean it like that. Nico knelt to scratch the kitten's chin. Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it eventually, he said. In the distance, the conch horn blew. Let's go ? Bianca asked. I'm a little hungry for dinner. Yeah, I'd like that. The camp was in more or less high spirits. After a long day of rebuilding and recuperating, dinner at camp felt good. The sunset over Long Island Sound was beautiful. The campers fell in line at the brashinga to make their customary offering to the gods for the meal. Everyone made sure to scrape in extra offerings for more or less getting out of the battle unscathed. It was a good time to celebrate, indeed. For a while, they could forget about the looming threat of war. For a little while, they could relish in the fact that Kronos had suffered a minor setback. Everyone was happy. On the Poseidon table, Tyson sat with Percy finally sharing a meal with someone. The Demeter table was busy talking about the crops they had been growing and other possible plants they can grow. The Ares table was boisterously laughing as the usual roughhousing ensued. The Athena campers had their eyes glued on Daedalus's laptop as they ate, browsing the different designs and schematics they could make. The Apollo table chatter consists of the latest songs and albums that topped the charts. The Artemis table wasn't lonely anymore. The Hunters and Naruto had some arm wrestling contests. They brought Naruto up to speed with the various monsters they fought. The Hephaestus table didn't seem like they were eating at all. They were already tinkering with the initial prototypes that they were working on with the Athena campers. The Aphrodite campers, especially the females, were sending jealous glares at table 8. The earlier agreement of Naruto switching tables and cabins didn't push through now since the Hunters had already accepted him. The Hermes kids were welcoming back Nico D'Angelo from his long absence at camp. Not only that, a big Hispanic kid, Chris Rodriguez, joined with them. They were celebrating his recovery from the madness he gained from the labyrinth. And finally, the Dionysus table had a guest. Lord Dionysus himself sat at the table. After almost losing his son, he felt the need to stay by his side at least for now. Then, the campers went over to the amphitheater for the sing-along. At the sing-along, the whole camp couldn't help but notice Clarisse LaRue sitting shoulder to shoulder with Chris. It was a topic for teasing and gossip, but knowing how the Ares cabin counselor would react, they all held their tongue. Naruto saw Dionysus standing over on the side. He joined him. Thank you for healing him, Lord Dionysus, Naruto bowed. It was no biggie, as the kids would say. Dionysus waved him off. I must say, when I said you could ask me anything, I would never imagine you would ask a favor on another person's behalf. Well, I personally didn't need anything at the moment. And I thought you could help Chris since you are somehow tied to madness. Naruto said as he scratched the back of his head. Good eye, Dionysus praised. The god let out a yawn. It's a tiring day putting up with you demigods. I will retire early tonight. Nice talk, demigod. Remember, my offer still stands. Naruto bowed. So here you were. Annabeth joined him in the sides of the amphitheater. Shouldn't you be in the sing-along ? Naruto asked. I could say the same to you, Annabeth shot back. Well, I had to thank Lord Dionysus for Chris, Naruto said, shifting his gaze to the couple. They look good together, Annabeth commented. The two watched as Clarisse's hand interlocked with Chris. Annabeth felt a tug in her gut. She looked at Naruto out of the corner of their eyes. Annabeth tried to do the same as Chris and Clarisse. She hesitated. She accidentally touched Naruto's hand, which got the blonde boy's attention. You need something ? Annabeth shook her head. Oh, alright, Naruto smiled. You want some s'mores ? Your stomach amazes me sometimes, Annabeth teased. Naruto let out a chuckle as he scratched the back of his head. So shall we ? Annabeth nodded. She took Naruto's hand and led the way. The rest of the summer seemed strange because it was so normal. The daily activities continued: archery, rock climbing, Pegasus riding. Since the Hunters were at the camp, it was time for a rematch. Talia and Naruto stared at each other challengingly. They played another game of capture the flag. It was another close match. Since Talia knows about the flying thunder god jutsu, she was prepared. She set out countermeasures, but she could never get past how crafty Naruto was. In the end, the camp was now in a 2-0 lead. A day after the game, they bid each other farewell. As she promised, Zoe Nightshade became an official camper. With some well wishes, tears may or may have not been shed, the hunters returned to camp. There were more chariot races that happened. The Artemis cabin won a couple of them. The Naruto and Zoe combination was a force to be reckoned with. They seemed to be unbeatable. Only the Athena or Ares cabin managed to stand a chance. July ped, with fireworks on the beach on the 4th. The Hephaestus kids released new scenes created by their fireworks. There was Naruto defeating the Kraken, the news that broke the godly world. They also added the first moon landing and King Leonidas, who apparently was a son of Ares, defending Sparta with his 300 men. August turned so hot the strawberries started baking in the fields. The campers had to think of various ways to keep cool during the cold weather. Unsurprisingly, a crowd would always gather around the obstacle course as Naruto would do his rounds around the course. Water balloon fights would also become a daily occurrence. Our favorite blonde was a favorite target, especially by the Aphrodite campers, not that they would hit him of course. The attention was drawing the ire of a certain daughter of Athena. Finally, the last day of camp arrived. The standard form letter appeared on every camper's bed. It was that time of the year again. On the dreaded day, Naruto, Annabeth, and Percy met at Half-Blood Hill. So, I guess this is it, huh? Was Annabeth's beginning statement. It can't be helped, Naruto added. Are you sure you're not coming to San Francisco? Annabeth asked just to be sure. Naruto shook his head. I wish I could. But after staying away from home for 2 years, I think I'd want to spend time with her for the school year. Plus, someone must keep an eye on Percy. Yeah, that makes sense, especially the last part, Annabeth agreed. Hey, I can stay away from trouble, you know. I lasted one whole school year 2 years ago. Percy protested. The key word is almost, the shinobi said. Yeah, we still bailed you out as the school year ended, Annabeth added. The two blondes shared a laugh at the expense of the son of Poseidon. But yeah, you could do it, seaweed brain, Annabeth followed up. She then turned to Naruto, so I guess you're giving people gifts now? What ? Naruto said cluelessly. He couldn't remember giving gifts to anyone since they came back from their quest in the labyrinth. Percy elbowed him. He then whispered in the blonde's ear. She means the kunai you gave Rachel. Oh. Naruto was dumbfounded. He didn't mean anything with that kunai. He just gave his friend a way for him to reach his friend whenever she needs help. Percy sighed. He had this complaint ever since he knew this boy. He may be smart, but he is lacking in other areas if you know what I mean. Plus it was already August, and it was only Naruto who did not give Annabeth anything for her birthday. He sighed. Don't worry, I didn't forget. Naruto brought out a box from his pocket. It was small and neatly wrapped. He handed it to Annabeth. I was under the impression that you forgot all about it. Annabeth's lips tugged into a smile. She took the box and opened it carefully. It was a wooden box. She opened it and inside was a necklace, its pendant almost exactly like Naruto's. The difference, there was some writing on the pendant, similar to Japanese calligraphy. Her eyes widened. She remembered seeing it on Naruto's kunai. This is. Yes, it's the Flying Radiance seal formula, Naruto confirmed. Now, I can instantly be by your side whenever you're in trouble. Sorry it took so long. I had almost 100 seals explode in my face when I was trying to recreate that. Naruto was instantly enveloped in a hug. Annabeth was ecstatic. She loved her gift so much. Possibly, it could be the best birthday present she has ever received. Naruto, I love it. She sobbed out tears of joy into Naruto's chest. I'm glad you like it, Naruto sighed out in relief. Of course I would, Annabeth said, letting go of the hug. She raised the pendant and stared at the mesmerizing jewel in her hands as it glinted into the morning sun. Told ya, Percy chimed. Help me put it on, Annabeth said, handing it back to Naruto. She turned her back to the blonde. The shinobi laced the jewelry over the daughter of Athena's neck and hooked up the lock. Annabeth turned around and showed off her new gift to the two boys. How does it look? She struck a pose. Beautiful, was Naruto's response, but he was staring at her in general. Either way, his answer applied to both. Smooth words from the number one hyperactive ninja. So, I guess it's time to go our separate ways, huh? Naruto said reluctantly. We'll be back here, Percy said almost like a promise. We'll be back here and face the inevitable and hopefully. Percy didn't want to say anything more. She didn't want to ruin the girl's good mood. Anything about her old friend was sure to sour it. They were broken out of their thoughts when Argus honked. I guess that's our cue, Naruto said, giving Annabeth one more hug goodbye. Percy also gave her one too. Take care, you two. Annabeth said. Watch each other's backs. You too, the two boys said. Watch over Mount Othries for us. At the car ride to the city. It was a quiet ride to the city. Just then, Percy spoke up, remembering something. Hey, we didn't get a chance to ask about the prophecy. She didn't tell us about the last line at all. You shall delve in the darkness of the endless maze, Percy remembered. Check, Naruto said. We did that, almost the whole quest. The dead, the traitor, and the lost one raise. Percy continued. We raised a lot of the dead. We saved Ethan Nakamura, who turned out to be a traitor. We raised the spirit of Pan, the lost one. Naruto explained. You shall rise or fall by the Ghost King's hand. That was Nico. We were saved when Nico decided to join our side. Destroy with a hero's final breath. When Daedalus D, we can assume that the labyrinth was destroyed with it. But what is the last line? Naruto hummed in thought. If she didn't want to talk about it, then it probably was Luke. We encountered him twice in this quest, and in the last one was. Percy's eyes widened in realization. It's about Luke giving his body over to the Titan Lord, wasn't it? Naruto nodded. And if it were to rhyme, it would probably be, to lose a love to worse than death. Damn, was all Percy could say. I kinda understand now. I'm glad I didn't press her for the answers. She'd hate me. That was smart of you to hold your tongue, Naruto praised. But that's all in the past now, all we could do is look to the future. We have a war to fight. But before the doom and gloom, there's something much closer. What is it? Percy asked. It's your birthday. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.